always wondered, and I'm glad to have someone who's in the craft of comedy versus journalism, to ask this question. When you go up to people, as you did with the militia, but then you go up to people in the March for Our Lives and you say things like that, like how do they, I mean, I saw what we saw on camera, but how do they take it? Are they taking you seriously, or are they really?
Ideally, I mean, yes, they are taking me seriously.
But you don't give them any like, hey, I'm from the show and I'm going to do this.
I will you know, some people will recognize me but still want to engage in the conversation for sure. You know, we are very open about who we are, and we're like, you know, we're from the opposition. Can I ask you questions? What we want in ideal moments are, we don't want somebody in on a joke playing along with us. What we want is, I can be the buffoon here, but hopefully I'm highlighting real people with real beliefs, and that's where the comedy comes from, and that's where the point of view comes from. We actually had a few students from Parkland on the opposition a few months back, and what was amazing, like, they knew the conceit of the show, but it was like, I need you to be on here to talk about this issue and how it affects you. They knew that I was going to be somebody who was going to push back, who was going to be this far-right perspective. At that time, the narrative was, don't trust these kids, they're just kids. There was the crisis actor idea that was getting bandied about. And so I pushed them a little bit, and it was, you know, it was a delicate balance, but I asked the students afterwards, like, how that was for them, and their response was really interesting to me. They were like, oh, I enjoyed it. It was like talking to the internet. And and you realize, like, these are students who have been getting trolled. They're like, oh yeah, the stuff that you're saying back to me is the stuff that just because I've become a public person in the last week, this is the hate that I've been getting. And so for them, it was refreshing to actually be able to push back against that. And I think at its best, we're providing a platform and an opportunity to hear that voice. Can you talk more about the Parkland, as I call them, Parkland kids, not in a derogatory way, but in a laudatory way, because they're so remarkable for being so young and what they're doing. What do you think of them? I would say, as a generation, I'm incredibly impressed, and they've been like they've been an optimistic ray of hope in a debate that hasn't had that for a while. Like having them on the show. They were very articulate, they've lived through this, and they were impatient. And I think that was something that I was so excited to see. And then able to go to the rally, I talked to other Parkland students, but I also talked to other students, other 17-year-olds, randomly off of the street, and people were passionate, and they wanted change. And I think we saw that CNN debate where Rubio got pushed and Dana Lash got cut off. And I think it was rowdy. It was political theater like I haven't seen. But there was an element of that was so refreshing, because it was like, they're not going to stand on ceremony. They are literally, they're living a life day to day where they have to consider, where they have actual drills in case somebody comes in with a gun. And that's unacceptable. And I think we have grown complacent. And to watch kids not want to wait is something that I think is a little bit of a wake-up call for everybody else. Is it their youth that gives them sort of the wow factor or the awe factor for us, or is it youth plus their media savvy? I think the media savvy is a big part of it. They were able to own the news cycle in a way that only our president has been able to do for the last year. And I think that was, but that's important now. The gun debate, it happens, we all roll our eyes, we make jokes, we get frustrated by the fact that something terrible happens, and within 4 days we're talking about something else because the media gets gobbled up, because the commander-in-chief goes on Fox and Friends. Within 4 days? Within 4 hours. 4 hours, yeah. Yes, right? 4 days, if we're lucky, we're still talking about this. And I think what was incredible about Parkland is afterwards they were able to own that narrative, keep it going, organize, organize a walkout, and then overall a march later on. And so I think that's where people of perhaps our generation are looking at that as like, oh, you know how to communicate in 2018, you're using that, and you also have like a moral clarity that perhaps other people don't have.